Hey, everybody. Merry Christmas, and I hope you all enjoy me reading Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Enjoy. How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down at Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please, don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on right. Could be perhaps his shoes were too tight. But I think most likely reason of all may have been his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grouchy, grinchy frown at the warm-lidded windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. "And they're hanging their stockings," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here." Then he growled with his French Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And them. Oh, the noise. Oh, the noise. Noise, noise, noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise. Noise, noise, noise. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on wood pudding and rare Who roast beef, which is something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand to hand, and the Who would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, sing, and sing. They'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why? For 43 years I've been putting up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat. And he quickly made a Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick! With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scared, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I will make one instead. So he called his dog Max, and then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn around the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Max! Then the Grinch said, Giddy up! And the sled startled down towards the homes where the Who's lay snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quite snow-filled the air. All the Who's are all dreaming sweet dreams without a care. When he came to the first little house on the square, This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed. He climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa can do it, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he sucked his head out of the fire flute, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. Their stockings, he grinned, are the first to go. Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present, pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorns, and plums. And he even stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk into the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleared out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree, and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound, like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny little Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus? Why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he could thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light up one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head and got her a drink and sent her back to her bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. Their walls left nothing but hooks and some wire, and one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs too small for the other Who mouses. It was 1:15, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze. He packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top, to the dump it. Pooh-hoo to the Who's, he grinchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, and I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down at Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, and then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who in Whoville, the tall, the small, were singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled there hours till this puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little more, bit more. And then what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they said that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed his loud through the bright morning lights, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef.